Ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to a fireside chat on the India 2047 agenda, transforming the tech world. Today, we have the privilege of hosting two distinguished leaders who have played a pivotal role in shaping India's technological landscape. Please join me in welcoming Saurabh Srivastava, co-founder of NASSCOM and founder of Indian Angel Network, and Ajai Chowdhry of HCL, founder and Epic Foundation. Can I have both our guests on stage, please? Saurabh Srivastava is one of India's leading IT entrepreneurs, angel investors, and venture capitalists. He founded and chaired IIS Infotech, which was ranked amongst the top 20 Indian software companies within 4 years of inception and was the first company international quality certified. Dr. Ajai Chowdhry, one of the 6 founding members of HCL, began an exciting journey more than 4 decades ago with a dream to give India its own microcomputer. The sheer clarity of vision and hard work led to a revolution and laid the foundation of Indian IT industry, taking India to the league of major economies of the world. He has been on several government committees working towards taking PC and broadband into every village in India. And may I also invite Pradeep Gupta to please moderate this panel, Chairman, CyberMedia Group.
Good morning. Yeah, I am audible. Okay, so I have a very, very illustrious panel here with me. And I think, Mr. Rao, your presentation has really laid the foundation of what we were going to discuss. And you traced the history and so on, and you've sort of made a roadmap for the future. And to take this roadmap further, I cannot have two better panelists than what we have here for this fireside chat. So let me start with you, Saurabh. We have had success in the software industry and we became number 1, right? But we have soon realized that, that is not the end of the journey for us, because there are so many other places where we can actually be number 1, right? And so would you like to share some views on that?
Okay. Can you hear me at the back? Yeah, okay. So PG, the IT services story is a very critical enabler for anything we're doing today. At the time we did that, we founded NASSCOM in 88. 1988, we were $50 million industry. Today, it's $250 billion. So at the time we founded, there was no venture capital. When we started our companies, there was no bank debt. You took $8 if you went abroad. It took me 12 months to get a license to start my company. At that time, the only thing you could do was a services company. There's no way you could do a product company. And the ones that tried, Wipro, for instance, failed. Because we didn't know the global market. We didn't understand it. And the Indian market was so different than the global markets, not like today, that this experience didn't carry over. So the IT service industry grew. Now today, outside of the US, there's only us. If not already, pretty soon we'll be the largest place for technology talent. What has changed though is that services excellence has now moved to other areas. You're looking at SaaS, you're looking at products, and that's because the world's biggest product companies, the biggest tech companies, are now doing the R&D in India. The second biggest location for most players outside of their home country is now India. So people are getting that experience and they are moving out. Just like IT service industry, we all learned from IBM, working for IBM, Unisys. We created the Indian industry. That's happening in products. That's happening in SaaS. It's spilling over to where we're now leveraging technology for agriculture, for example. You have space tech, you have health tech. So it's zooming to another level. And I think just earlier there was talk of the India's digital public infrastructure.
Yeah.
That has only been possible because of the strength created by IT services. So all of what we are doing today, every single thing, the platform was built by an industry that did not exist 35 years ago.
Absolutely.
And when you look at 2047, the fact that we can dream of leading the world in technology, leading the world in innovation in 2047 is because of what we did in IT services. So very often we lose this perspective of what this has become possible, because by 2047, well, way before that, no matter where anybody thinks of an idea, the talent will be here. And increasingly, we are moving from just production, just building something to somebody else's specs, to actually designing our own.
Right. So
And
you're
the
saying
digital
that-
public structure is the best example.
Right.
But the other thing we are learning, we thought hardware is not important. We'll build India, we'll lead the world in tech on software. We're realizing that is not going to happen. Hardware and software have to go together. If we cannot get leadership in hardware, we will not lead in the digital world.
Great. So essentially you are saying that, services was the first example. Today we have the skills that are available with us. We have the force, but hardware is a very important piece of that entire thing, fundamental piece. And you've been a champion of that and ensuring that, more and more hardware comes out of India. I remember Dr. Sheshagiri talking about hardware and software being the two sides of the same coin. And we left one side in middle, somewhere from mid-90s, we actually disinvested in hardware in this country. But now, yes, we are once again moving on to that particular journey. And so therefore, what do you see that as a future when we start looking at the next 25 years?
Well, actually, what we now need to think about is where are we today and where do we want to be? And I think conceptually, if we want to take a leadership position in the world in terms of technology, we need to move from low value added to higher value added. So from services, as Saurabh said, we need to move on to products and SaaS and a whole bunch of other things. Because just being in services and manufacturing, if you look at electronics, we are in manufacturing, we have grown extremely well in the last 5-6 years, but that's low value added. We now need to move from manufacturing to products. And my vision is that India should be a hardware product nation in addition to being a software product nation. And that's where we need to go. Now, if you look at impact of hardware and software on everything around us, it's immense. There isn't any technology or any area or any vertical where hardware and software will not play a role. It will be ubiquitous everywhere. Now, if we really as a country want to go towards higher value added, we need to think beyond where we are today. And that's really where we should be thinking. There is a think tank in Australia which looked at 34 emerging technologies. And out of them, majority of the technologies, China was leading. And India was hardly a speck somewhere. So if we need to really look 2047, we need to take a view of how we should become smarter and better before we become old. And by 2047, 50, we'll start to age. So before that, we need to do things which are required to make changes happen. So if you look at hardware, today we see products the way they are. I don't see the products the way they are tomorrow.
Right.
And the way I see is that by 2047, everybody has predicted that we will see Turing test being passed, and we will also see singularity happen. And fundamentally, what that means is that artificial intelligence, computing, will overtake the human brain. So when that happens, the type of technology we will be using will be completely different.
Right.
And that is what we should be planning towards and thinking about, rather than what we have today. So if you look at software, phenomenal growth. But you look at hardware, it's catching up. By the next 3 years, we will be a 300 billion electronics country. Okay,
Right.
and that's not small. And somewhere we'll start to get closer to what software will be. So very critically, we must move everywhere towards higher value addition and making products for the world. And I imagine that 2047, we should think about how can we lead the world in products and higher value addition than where we are today.
Right. And one of the most important pillar, what I hear you saying, is going to be technology, right? And therefore, what is it that we should be doing in terms of, you said that they made a list of technologies and we were not there. So, whether it is, let's say, the 6G standards, or in future 7, 8, 9, whatever Gs, or robotics, or AR, VR, or artificial intelligence, which is currently the talk of the world, what should be some of the focus that we should pick up, and how we should pick up that focus? What should be the roadmap?
You see, if you look at the last 6 months,
Right.
a 4G stack was created by 16 startups working together.
Right.
And that organization called itself Voice. They won the contract for 24,000 crores from BSNL. Now that's a standard for creating products, is one standard. How we can collaboratively work and make startups happen in this country in hardware also. And if we bring such startups together and string them together to create the 5G stack, the 6G stack, just imagine as a country what we can do. So I see hardware startups playing a huge role as we go forward.
And so, Saurabh, again, the roadmap, today, for instance, hardware is governed by a different ministry, and software by a different branch in the ministry. Telecom is another piece which is looked at by another ministry. So, what would you suggest could be a very effective way of planning this entire thing?
So, PG, one of the things is this, and we all know this, that if you play a game in which you have designed the rules, you have a better chance of winning. Remember what happened to Indian hockey. We were number one, always won a gold medal, and then they changed the lawn to artificial turf. We never won a medal after that till recently, because suddenly the game we played was no longer good for an artificial turf. So in India, one of the things that happened for this years and years of colonization, we lost our self-confidence. We forgot that we used to be the leaders. Way back in the beginning of this century, beginning of around just about BC, there's talk of Roman senators complaining in the Senate that they have an adverse balance of payments with India because they're buying manufactured goods, but Indians don't need to buy anything they produce. So the time has come for us to reimagine who we can be. We don't have to follow what others have done. We need to do the roadmap. And when you have such dramatic seismic shifts in technology directions as you see today, everything that existed so far is not of much use. So new players will get to leapfrog, or as Michelle Kerr says, pole vault. We've done a bit of that. For instance, nobody in the world thought of UID, UPI, and whatever, and see the transformation we have wrought. We didn't learn from anybody. Now, the rest of the developing world, even developed countries, will learn from us. So we need to look ahead, imagine the new world, see what we need in terms of hardware, software, device policies for it. Ajay was completely on the ball. Today, there's $40–50 billion of VCP money. All goes into software. Doesn't go into hardware at all. We are becoming the world, we are the third largest startup ecosystem. By 2047, we should be number 1 or number 2. That will be our salvation. How do we create the funding for them? How do we make sure that they do not just SaaS companies A or B or C, but they do the things that matter? Because if you look at it, in India we have scale. So you have agri-tech startups. In space, we're only one of 3 countries in the world that can do it. So we have lots of areas where we can leapfrog, grow, and as you say, by 2047, my vision is we should be the global center of innovation. We should be number 1, or at least have a tie with the US.
And is one of the paths for doing that to go via the route of, you know, expanding in Africa, expanding in Latin America, expanding in rest of Asia, and then going to the European countries and US? Is that the sort of a path that you would suggest in terms of geographical expansion?
See, the thing is, when we solve on scale the large challenges we have by startups converting them to opportunities, that solution is not relevant only for us. It's relevant for 90% of the world. So it will expand anyway. We don't have to go there. They will come. And actually, we will disrupt developed markets as well.
No, the reason why I was saying that is that, for example, for the India stack, our strategy right now seems to be to first go for the developing nations and give them the India stack.
Yeah, they need it more.
Yeah.
And it'll take the West a little time to begin to also respect us as being ahead of them. It's early. We are ahead of them. They all know that.
Absolutely.
All the numbers tell you, stats tell you. It'll take a little while for them to handle their egos and come to us. But if we keep doing it, it'll happen. I mean, look at Israel. Where was Israel?
Right.
Why do they have this positioning? They were nowhere. So it'll happen. I don't think we need to worry about that.
And Ajay, same question, but in a, should we also be working on setting up standards for the world? Do you see that as a possibility? Because, as you said, manufacturing flew from Japan to Korea to China, Taiwan, China. Now it's shifting here to India. But, they also moved into developing the definitive standards for the globe, right? Japan played an important role. China is doing that today. So do you see that kind of a thing also being done here?
You
That
see, we have been followers till now.
Yeah, so that's what I mean.
We need to get out of this follower mentality and take a very clear stance to be leaders in everything that we do. And standards will play a huge role. So fortunately, India is now in the 6G standard committee, And I think as we go forward, we should be there in every part of standards that are created for all kinds of technologies.
So, for example, robotics.
Yeah,
Should
we need to
be
take that leadership role. We just can't be followers. And if we want to be, as I said, uh, rich before becoming old, we need to take a very high position. And we should not worry about, should I take our stack through, chota countries? We should go straight and say to the US and Europe, hey guys, we have the best, you better adopt it because you'll get left behind. And that is a position of leadership, is what I call leadership, real leadership. And therefore, we need to take bolder steps than what we have taken in the past. And we need to tell the world that we can do many, many more things than what we do today. If you look at computing alone, hardware alone, we are going to move from the current model of tablets and desktops and all these products into AR, VR, very ubiquitous computing, quantum computing. All those things will become as a piece that will be controlled by our brain rather than by our hands and the voice.
correct.
So AR, VR, which is what we are seeing today, is very early days, and the metaverse we are seeing is very early days of computing. Tomorrow's computers are not going to be physical at all. And that's really the way we should think, because we need to think even beyond software and hardware into that other world that will actually happen. I don't know, but this is what I imagine it will be.
Yeah, we always had the Maya Nagari, the metaverse, and so on. So, that has been part of our scriptures but my last question to both of you, it's the same question. And that is that currently, for instance, there is this big noise about artificial intelligence and a lot of stuff which is happening in AI. And so, very quickly, if we wanted to take a global role, so far the global leadership has all come from not even Europe, it has come primarily from the US. Now, in the area of AI, if we want to take that global position, what are, let's say, 3 things that you think we should do? So, the same question to you. Let's start with you, Ajay.
Well, actually, we have the talent, and we're supposed to have pretty much the largest talent in the world as far as AI is concerned. Talent alone is not going to help us. I think we need to be very clear that around AI, we should build high-value products out of India in areas that we identified as leadership areas in different kinds of technology. I'm not just talking digital technology.
Okay.
So we need to identify those and go after them. Like Sam Altman said the other day, let's use AI to make fusion happen. So those are the kind of things that we need to identify. How do we make environmentally safe world with energy that is the cheapest in the world? We need to think like that, use artificial intelligence to achieve that.
Wonderful. Saurabh?
See, the one thing we need to remember with AI or any other technology, doesn't matter who in the world is going to do any work on it, they will need India's tech talent to do it. Nobody has the scale.
Right.
It's only getting disproportionate. So nobody will be able to solve anything without us. Let's first understand that. It's already almost true. This is not 2047. In 5 years, this will be completely true. And when that happens, the knowledge and experience and perspective of our startups, of our people, will span what's happening everywhere in the world. So leadership will come. I think we need to fix our minds and
Sure.
get the confidence that actually we can lead, we can design, and the use cases are massive. For us, the only way we will move from a developing country to, as Ajay says, rich, is by leveraging tech. And AI will be a huge enabler for that, huge enabler. So AI for good, for instance, is something we can actually set the benchmarks for. So I see all disruptive technologies, all disruptions to be India's biggest ally. Because all the other developed countries today have too much invested in old systems. We have very little. So for us to pole vault
leapfrog.
is very easy.
Yeah.
It's very easy. And that's what we've done. And that's why digital public infrastructure tells us. So easy for us to do it. I mean, France wants to now look at UPI and all the rest, but the other countries couldn't have. They already have bits and pieces of this and that.
Right.
Too much opposition.
Yeah.
May I leave something for you, for the
Yep.
whole audience to think
Yep,
about?
absolutely.
What AI will do to us? We'll probably live forever.
Sorry?
We probably live forever.
That is also part of the singularity mission. So thank you very much, Ajay and Saurabh. That was really a very, very exciting discussion. And I think, the points that you made are the building blocks for the roadmap that we should have for 2047. So a huge round of applause for both Ajay and Saurabh. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.